caveats with NDIS. I'd now like to introduce New South Wales Minister for Ageing and Minister for Disability Services, New South Wales Government, Andrew Constance. There are just two big final speeches to go, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations on the way you have hung in for NDIS. It's a great pleasure to invite Andrew all the way from Bega and Eden to introduce the New South Wales Premier, Barry O'Farrell.
Well, g'day everyone, and I can't tell you how much of a privilege it is to be here as the State Minister for Disability Services to introduce the Premier of this state. In doing so, can I just say this? The delivery of a national disability insurance scheme is a fundamental human rights issue which this country has to face up to. For too long, to have disability in this country means that you're dictated to by government, by bureaucracy as to what services and supports you can have without having that fundamental choice around what you deserve in terms of the quality of life issues that you seek to achieve. We were here last week as a government working with the disability sector in New South Wales to start to put in place the critical step towards a national disability insurance scheme, that being the person-centred approach. It's being delivered by the New South Wales Government because of the leadership shown by the Premier of this state, Barry O'Farrell, when in opposition he strongly endorsed and supported the then Labor government through Stronger Together, which we as the new government can now deliver today. There is a very clear message. The bipartisanship in New South Wales from Labor and Liberal politicians has made an enormous difference. And we are calling on our national leadership to look to what has happened in New South Wales. And it's for this reason that it's a real privilege to be able to introduce Premier O'Farrell today to you all to give the New South Wales perspective in terms of a national disability insurance scheme. Thank you.
Prime Minister, all of the elected representatives here, including a first-rate Minister for Disability Services and Andrew Constance. But can I say, spectacularly, you in the audience, you look fantastic from this view. Well done. As Andrew has said, in this state, support for people with disabilities, support for expanding services for those with disabilities has been of long-standing bipartisan support. And 2 years ago, I remember standing beside Christina Keneally at another rally like this, down at the Opera House, where together we supported continued funding for Stronger Together too. And as a government, we've delivered $2 billion invested over 5 years to provide services to an additional 47,000 people across New South Wales. But sadly, you know, and people across this state know, that despite the unprecedented investment in Stronger Together by two state governments of two political persuasions, it only goes part of the way to meeting the needs of people with disabilities, their families and carers across this state. So, folks, my hope is that in 2 years' time we look back at this rally, as we look back at that rally at the Opera House, and see it as the start of delivering substantial implementation of that national disability insurance scheme that you so desperately want. I welcome the Prime Minister's presence here today. I welcome the commitments that she's made and will continue to make. I also want to acknowledge the commitments made by the Federal Leader of the Opposition, Tony Abbott, who will be speaking at a rally like this in Perth later today. Like the progress made at the Opera House on Stronger Together too, bipartisanship is needed at a federal level. I'll get to the election. Bipartisanship is needed at a federal level to ensure that whatever the result of the next federal election, you achieve the goal you're entitled to. Delivering a national disability insurance scheme should be above politics, because, as I said at the Opera House, people with disabilities, their families and their carers shouldn't have to protest, shouldn't have to rally to get what should be theirs by right. Now, the New South Wales Government is prepared to work with the federal government, committed to working with the federal government to make NDIS a reality. That's one of the benefits that came out of the Council of Australian Government meeting in Canberra a month ago. But I'm sure that all of you would agree that the time for talk is over. For too long, people with disabilities, their carers, their families, have battled against a system that fails to address their individual needs and hinders their ability to live a life that the rest of us take for granted. The NDIS has to be developed, it has to be implemented, and that has to start now. In this state, the demand for disability services is increasing on average each year by 9 to 10%, and that demonstrates why the states can't provide disability services on their own. As the Productivity Commissioner said so clearly, only the Commonwealth has the financial resources to ensure that a national disability insurance scheme is both comprehensive and sustainable into the decades ahead. People with disabilities need a lifetime of care and support that only that NDIS can provide. They deserve the best opportunities to participate in their communities across this state and across this nation. Now, as Andrew said, in this state, my government's getting on with the job of making us NDIS ready. We're committed to empowering people with disabilities by allowing them to pick and choose the services they need, rather than being told what services they'll get and who'll provide those services to them. We're making these changes not just because it's the right thing to do, but because, as Andrew said, it's a matter of human rights. But we're also making this change because it'll make delivering the NDIS so much easier. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm often asked what the greatest asset of this state is. And I can tell you it's not the mineral resources below the ground. It's the 7.3 million people walking or wheeling around above ground. Each one of you has a contribution you can and want to make to this society. Each one of you want to continue that tradition that's existed in this state for all of those 224 years since Europeans first arrived. And the point about every person counting, the point about making it real, is to unlock in each and every citizen of this state, and hopefully across all states, that potential that we know that exists, that potential that that part-time harmonica player referred to in his speech. And that's why I'm pleased to be here with Andrew Constance, supporting NDIS, committing our support to it, and urging our federal colleagues, Liberal and Labor, to join together and to get on and deliver what you so desperately need.
Thank you, Premier.